we saw things like that. We saw people manage addictions.
Yeah.
We saw people manage suicidal thoughts just through having space held for them, having a regular place to connect and talk and have someone listen. I'll have a class of 10, 11, 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll be like, obviously, but I put my hand up. Does anyone struggle with anxiety, with overthinking, with catastrophizing, with insomnia? Every single hand goes up.
Yeah. Today I am joined by the lovely Paul Chambers.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, you are very welcome. Thank you for coming on the show. So, Paul, you're the founder of PoetsIN, and it's PoetsIN, but creative mental health charity.
That's
correct.
correct. Yes,
Okay.
yes. And the co-founder.
I know.
Yeah.
So, co-founder.
Yes.
With
Sammi, my my partner in crime,
I love
and
that.
partner in charity.
We always need a partner in crime.
Yeah, especially one like Sammi, because she gets stuff done.
Yeah.
I flounce about and talk to people and open doors.
But don't you find as a founder we sort of all do that?
Yeah. Naturally, whether we're there to do it or not, we're just constantly looking at opening doors and helping people.
Absolutely. Now, I don't think I'm going to give it as much justice as you. So can you tell us a bit about what it is that you do?
Yes. So trying to get this into a nutshell. So we help people of all ages, that's children, young people and adults, manage their mental health and well-being through providing a safe space and through holding space on a regular basis through our programs, which can run up to 10 weeks, through an online community, through a buddy service where people are really struggling. We can give them a bit more intense help, but we provide tools with which to manage their well-being within the moment when they're really struggling and for life.
Okay.
And that's kind of utilising creativity through, whilst the name Poets is in the title, it isn't just poetry, and you can go the whole 10 weeks without doing any poetry. It's just connecting pen to paper and kind of tapping into that ceremony of getting it out onto the paper, and whether you tear that up or you create something from it, to help purge and to help manage and to help kind of absorb what it is that's going on inside.
So I think it's a really important thing to do, isn't it? And I've only found this over the last year, to start writing things down. And I thought, oh, it's just a diary. It's so much more than that, I think. For me, journaling anyway is so much more than that.
Yeah.
And I suppose it gives you a space to really put down what you think and just clear your mind completely.
Yes, yeah.
And I didn't realise how powerful it was probably until, like I say, last 4, 5, 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And how my headspace has, I suppose, it's got some clear space within it because I'm doing this.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's become a bit of a habit.
Good.
Which is good.
It's a really good habit, because it's the good habits that are hard to keep going.
Yeah.
It's the bad habits that are easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
to maintain. But yeah, it's something so simple, but over, I suppose, as we grow up, we get a disconnect from that writing things down thing, because life gets busy. But I mean, one of the things we do at the start of every program is we do a thing called 10-minute free thought writing. Which is, we put a timer on, we put some chilled music on, and we invite people to because the thoughts don't stop in here, they never stop. And it's kind of recognising that we are always thinking and writing those thoughts down as they come into our head. And that could be, I need to get some milk later, I can feel the sweat trickling down the back of my legs, like I'm starving, like I need a wee, like whatever, like song lyrics, whatever. And people tend not to hold that space and just be with their thoughts, to write down and then just tear up at the end. And people are quite surprised with how effective that is. Just 10 minutes just every now and again when your mind's busy and it just clears it, and it kind of, I suppose it unravels some of what's going on in here, and that's without even a structure to it.
Wow, there you go. There is a hack for you there, right? Just 10 minutes.
Yeah, just 10 minutes.
And it's so powerful.
Yeah, and if you struggle with insomnia, or you just, like my brain turns on at between about 3 a.m. and 4 a.m.
Absolutely, mine too.
Yeah, and you know, even when I'm not struggling with my anxiety, but just like it just starts thinking. And that moment when you're like, I will get back to sleep.
Yeah.
I will get back to sleep. But if you just, like, I don't know, if you've got the privacy of your own room, turn the light on and write it down.
Yeah.
But if you just go into the bathroom or downstairs or whatever, and just take 10 minutes out to just write down those thoughts. And if something needs to be kept, put it to one side. But otherwise, just do it without fear of it making any sense or being legible or whatever. Like even if your pen is like the needle on a seismograph, you know, just allowing that to flow through. And it just creates a little bit of zen in an otherwise busy mind.
Yeah, and it does.
Yeah.
So I think what I loved about learning more about yourself and obviously your co-founder Sammi as well is that you have both started this having experienced major challenges within your personal but also mental health as well.
Completely, yes.
And I think you can only ever start a venture like this when you've really been through it all.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So would you mind giving sort of the listeners in the audience a bit of an idea of Paul's life and sort of what you've been through, the peaks, the troughs, and your experience to...
Absolutely. I think, so it all started, I didn't know this until I was in my 40s.
Yeah.
I wasn't diagnosed until quite late in life, like I'm dying next year.
Yeah.
But I found out in my 40s that I'd had mental illnesses since I was a child. And they probably started around about the age of 5. Common story, mum and dad split up. I couldn't understand that, and I think that's where some trauma began, and my stutter began, which we spoke about, which should have been a sign. And then we moved to Germany. I didn't want to go to Germany because my relationship was better with my dad than it was my mum. My mum had married a Victorian style man.
Okay.
That wasn't the most pleasant of people. I didn't want to go over there. And unbeknownst to me, I was struggling then. I was struggling with depression. I was struggling with anxiety. It turns out I had some personality disorders as well that manifest as ADHD and OCD.
Okay, so quite big, what today is classed as disorders then that need to be treated.
Yes, and a heady cocktail as well when you're a child.
Yeah.
And so I was always that gregarious, loud child to kind of put this mask on that was really kind of covering a lot of stuff that was going on underneath, and you know, mixed with a stutter as well, which was just...
And how old were you at this point?
So when I was we moved to Germany when I was 10, 11, then went to boarding school when I was 12, 13.
So it was boarding school in Germany as well. Okay, that's got to be pretty tough.
That was, and that was when it was week boarding, and that was when I started drinking. Okay. And I'd have this, had this army bottle, litre army bottle, and I'd take bits from all the spirit bottles before going off for the week, and that would be how I would cope for the week. 13 years old, banging my way through a load of spirits Monday to Friday. And then that progressed to, I'd go around, I'd come back every holiday to England because I didn't like it over there, and I'd go through my nan's cupboards and like any pills, if they looked pretty, big red and white ones, take them. I didn't know what they were doing. And that kind of began a cycle of addictions. I got into drink, drugs, smoking, and those addictions probably went on for a good 30 years, just masking things. I was having a great life, I thought.
I was going to say, because in your career life, you've been successful, right?
Yeah.
And you were living your best life, I suppose, from the outside world looking in.
Yeah, I was. I worked hard.
Yeah.
I always worked hard, but I was always living for the weekend. And I worked hard because I was still off my tits on coke.
Yeah.
So because I was doing coke every single night, I couldn't get to sleep without doing coke
Yeah.
at one stage, which is bizarre. But that feeds into the ADHD
Yeah.
side of things. That it was actually calming me down rather than
lifting
bringing
you
me up. But I'd go into work the next day. I was in recruitment for 15 years.
I mean, well,
Yeah.
working in the city for sort of 18 years, I know what that part is like. You know, we used to actually work next door to a recruiter.
Oh, you poor people.
In one of the tallest towers in London. And they partied hard in the evening until the morning.
Yeah.
Actually, anyone did in that.
Of course, yeah. But there was always that sales focus, and for sales you need to kind of have a lack of fear, have a thick skin, have energy.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, it wasn't the real me that was doing all this, but it did me well within that industry. But it also made me ill.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I came out the other side of that and trying to clean up with my current partner that I went into another job, recruitment kind of oriented. It was like a new version of recruitment. It was like a computerized recruitment offering. But in that training bit where you're partnered with people that were half my age by this time, I realised I couldn't do it. I could barely get out of bed because I was clean by this time. Like everything was very clear. There's a very clear light on my life. And I was going off to do something I hated with people I didn't really like, pushing something I didn't have a belief in, and I couldn't retain any information. I was always good at being in front of people, but I couldn't do it anymore. I could not do it. And I just crumbled and broke apart and reached out for help. And that was kind of the start of my mental health journey. I'd stepped away from the corporate life, wearing suits.
It's tough, isn't it? Well, I found it really difficult to step away from that when that's all you know. Like even now, I've got 2 wardrobes full of suits and heels, and I'm like,
same as, apart from the heels.
Yeah, well, what? Can have some of mine. But I felt that it was really difficult to turn up and sit and have a conversation with someone without being suited and booted, and that sounds really weird.
And did you find yourself apologising?
Yes.
Like for the first, God knows how many meetings with the grown-ups.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I've worn suits for so long. I just feel like, and now I don't care.
Yeah, and that's it. It's good.
Yeah.
And that's such a nice feeling, actually.
It really
not to care,
is.
Right?
Yeah, because we worked for that.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did work really hard.
Yeah.
So when you realised that this isn't the place for me anymore, how bad was it in terms of how you felt personally, your mental health at that point?
I was in a deep, dark hole, and I was at the stage where I realised that life would be easier if it ended.
Okay, so that was pretty bad then.
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't have a point of reference of. I didn't have that label of mental illness or mental health, and I'm quite linear in my thinking. I need to understand something to deal with it, and so there was this kind of vortex I was in of uncertainty and this. Am I going mad? Ness that but as soon as I initially reached out to a private therapist, and as soon, just that first initial call on the phone, just 15 minutes, kind of her assessing me and her saying, "This is a really common problem, Paul, and I think you might have depression," and you know, like cue tears, cue hairs are going up on my arms. Cue kind of like cymbals crashing, and it's just right, okay.
And did you believe that at that point? Did you think, that's that aha moment, this is what it is? Or did you think, no, she's got it wrong, I'm okay, or were you still sort of fighting it then? Because I know I've done that.
Yeah, I think I was ready to hear it.
Okay, good.
I do think I was ready to hear it. Again, just to kind of hang my hat on something and kind of to work with it. And to just, because I'd lost my joy,
Yeah.
I'd stopped being fun, and which I now know I wasn't fun. I was whatever the uncle was on Friends, the alcoholic uncle, who stopped drinking and then got boring, as me. But yeah, so to kind of have that explained to me,
Yeah.
I needed it, and it was a revelation for me.
Because I think, especially mental health in men at that age, or actually, unfortunately, recently, any age
Yeah.
for men, it's really difficult. And like you said, your life sort of changed at that pivotal point of 40 years old,
Yeah.
as it did for me. And
Really?
at 40.
Really?
Yeah. So, and that was the time I left my job. I stopped.
Yeah.
Everything about my life completely changed. So I think it's really, I think it's a brave thing to do at that age. And I used to think, oh God, I'm 40. Like, age is your cage sort of thing.
Oh,
It's like,
age is your cage.
you know, like you're never going to be able to do this. You can't start a company at 40. You can't
Rubbish.
just, I mean, we're absolutely proof that you can,
Yeah.
by the way.
You can do anything.
You can do anything. But it's then you're retraining your brain, and everything you know at that age is a really brave thing to do,
Yes.
I think. And in terms of the therapy side, what therapy did you have? So you had a private therapist?
Yes. So initially I had hypnotherapy.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yes. Which taught me kind of visual tools to deal with. This was around the time of ghostwriting the book
we're
and
talking about.
and being screwed over by someone, and the obsession around that, and the anxiety and not being able to kind of deal with it. So there was the depression, there's the anxiety, and something that was happening at that time, and I was taught kind of how to deal with that initially, like a couple of times a week, then as once a week, and then gradually it kind of tailed off because I learnt how to manage those feelings, but then like anything, like good habits, they fall by the wayside because you think, oh, I'm sorted now. I wasn't, shocker. And over the course of my mental health journey, I also had CBT through the NHS. Big up the NHS because it was incredible.
Oh, really? That's good.
Yeah. I was very lucky to have. I dipped again. My anxiety, my depression spiked hugely, and I went to the doctors, and she high-fived me for being a man and coming in.
I love that.
And she actually high-fived me. She's like, "Well done," because I know, you know, you've got this ridiculous man up, particularly at my age, to actually talk about things like this and kind of show any weakness for some obscure reason isn't manly.
Yeah, and I don't know why there's always been this hang up with men that they feel inferior and weak to say that they're, depressed.
Yeah. It's a superpower.
It is absolutely.
Yeah. You can you just I wear my illnesses like medals.
Yeah,
like a suit of armor. Like they're part of me. They're part of my journey, and as a result, they've led to things that I never would have done.
Yeah.
I.e., helping people.
Yeah.
And being the person that I needed as a child, in my 20s, 30s, 40s. So yeah, I mean, I think it's getting better. I talk to all my male friends. I bore them rigid
I'm sure you don't.
Like, they'll be showing me a cheese platter, and somehow I'll bring it round to mental health. And like, so how are you? Yeah, I'm all right. No, really, how are you? And okay, we're going here, are we? And it's in the, I suppose in the, what is it, 7, 8 years since I've kind of been on that journey, there's been a tectonic shift in thinking and the stigma attached to it, but we've still got so far to go.
Yeah. So
far to go. It's great that there's generations coming up that are open and honest and are self-aware enough to kind of talk about it. And, they're going to, whilst they're inheriting a fucked up planet, they at least can recognise what's going on in them, and I'm hoping they can take over soon and mend everything.
Yeah, me too. Let's hope.
But us lot, us old, well, not you obviously, but
Thank you.
yeah. But old people like me, kind of like still with that stiff upper lip, belt and braces, and you know that.
And there are people like that, but then there is people like us, old
Yeah.
fuckers,
Yes.
that have experienced life.
Yes.
And I think that it is us and what we do now which will change that next generation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And hope that they, you know, we can guide them
Yeah.
into this world of well-being.
Oh gosh, yes, please.
I really hope we do, because only then can they really, I truly believe, be successful. And I don't mean successful just in business. I mean success in terms of being truly happy.
Yes. Yeah. And knowing their truth.
Yeah.
And knowing their red flags.
Yeah.
And knowing what they need to do to be healthy within themselves.
Definitely.
I mean, I go into schools now. We do a program in corporates, in third sector, in public sector, but also schools.
And also prisons, right?
Prisons,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. We actually started in prisons, but I'll have a class of 10, 11, 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll be like, obviously, but I put my hand up. Does anyone struggle with anxiety, with overthinking, with catastrophizing, with insomnia? Every single hand goes up.
Yeah.
And they're at the age where, you know, they shouldn't be worried about that shit.
Yeah, it shouldn't even be entering
No.
that. I know.
They shouldn't even be aware of it. I mean, we obviously want them to be aware of it, but it
yeah.
shouldn't be a thing that they have to be aware of.
Yeah.
And it's shocking. But people like us are there to guide them through that and give them the tools to make it as manageable as it can be, and not just for them, but for people around them as well. Maybe they can cascade it up to their parents as well.
Yeah,
and help them.
absolutely. Because I think, as we've had the conversation before around sort of growing up, you know, sometimes our parents can say certain things or do things where they don't realise the long-term effect of what happens, especially when you're a child going through speech therapy, as we both have been through.
Yes.
So yeah, parents, just have a little think sometimes about some of the things you say.
Yeah.
And they can just be a bit sometimes down, just a bit, down and out and very negative.
Yeah, and have a kind of an ingrained view of. I mean, when I came out with my
I love that.
about my mental health. So you know, it was like I say, it was a revelation to me, and I'm very much. A few people call me Mr. Facebook, and I like to share on Facebook, and I put a big post up. It was actually the anniversary, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago, because it was amazing, because I kind of reshared it and the journey I've been on since then. But coming out to people as having depression, anxiety, like shocked everyone because I was always the fun person. But I went round my mum's. Speaking of parents, I went round my mum's and she's like, so Paul, I saw on Facebook that you've got mental health, which you know we've come a long way since that, but you've got mental health. Have you tried watching DIY SOS? What, Mum? Just because there's people worse off than me. Like, yes, they do incredible things. I'm always crying, and just like if you watch it, it might just cheer you up.
God love her.
Oh my God, Mum, that's not how it
I mean, did you try watching DIY SOS?
I didn't. No, I didn't. Oh, bless her. But I mean, she and again, like saying about tectonic shifts, she's come a long way. And just before Christmas, even my mum, who is a bit of a robot, said, you know, you say it's always good to talk.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling like with the pandemic and everything, we have a weekly Zoom call with the family, but you know we aren't seeing each other as much. And she said, I'm feeling lonely. And can you know, we have the Zoom call, but can we have more than that? And I was really impressed that she's 70, she's in her 70s. And was able to actually have that rigid conversation with me, but she did it, you know.
Brilliant.
Bless her. So it's it's a re-education for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. And so after going through therapy and things, when was it you realised, okay, I now want to take a lot of what I have learned and put this into a programme which is for charity?
So leaving the corporate world, I had a publishing deal. I had publishers that wanted to publish a book that I'd started in, I think, 2000, which ironically was a way of purging all the darkness that was in me.
And can we purchase this book from anywhere? Is it?
It's on Kindle still, but I need to. I know I don't align with it as much now because I've evolved several times since I wrote it. It's about someone that develops an alter ego that goes back and kills people in apt ways if they're bad-mannered to them. But just some of the language now.
Serial killer.
Yeah, it was. And I even ran competitions for people to die in the book.
Really?
And they'd die.
Oh, this is brilliant.
Oh man, it was. And this was how I got into digital marketing because the publishers, by their own admission, were shit at marketing.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, I need to. And this was when Twitter was was at its kind of zenith before it became as toxic as it has done or can be. And so like, I ran a competition to go, can you share and like and kind of talk about my book because it was still in the process of being written, and you win the chance to die named in the book for doing your pet hate when it comes to manners and being rude. And it was actually pretty successful, and it's how I got into marketing, which then led to meeting my co-founder Sammi, who had read my book.
Oh, so that's how you met Sammi?
Yes, yeah, on Twitter, and we got talking, shared a love of books, of writing, of poetry, of mental health, and said I'm tasked with growing an online reading and writing community owned by some American people. They want to monetize it, they want to grow it, they want to increase the users. Do you want to come along and help? It's like, yeah. So,
amazing.
So yeah, I did the marketing. So indirectly, I'd become a writer, and then we were then helping other writers and readers on this website that initially was quite hierarchical. It was quite exclusive. It was you had to jump through hoops to kind of get exposure, and we stripped all that away and made it a safe, supportive, troll-free environment. And I suppose that was kind of the point where things clicked into place, because we began to get messages from people all around the world saying that having a safe space where they're not judged, or if they're judged, it's all, not toxic positivity, but, if people want feedback, they request it on their writing and they can write anonymously. But these messages were saying all around the world that it helped with their mental health and suicidal thoughts. Meanwhile, the owners of the organisation, every time they got some funding, they spunked it on things rather than grow it. And we went part-time. We thought, right, we need to find something that kind of creates something for us. Let's harness this thing, this beautiful thing of helping people with a platform. And that kind of was where Sammi was the main brains behind the program. I got like hands up. She was the one that kind of came up with the idea, and she lives in Peterborough. So we approached Peterborough Prison. We've got this idea of this workshop around creative writing to help with mental health. We didn't even get halfway through the pitch. And so like, yes,
in quick,
yes,
come in,
yes, come in. And that was incredible because it's got a male and a female side there. It resonated more on the female side because men talking about mental health, but it's like rap, and once you got past that stigma, it kind of it worked on the male side, but the female side went on for 2 years.
Wow,
we had a waiting list at one point where we had 16 people in the library, and these are people of all levels of criminal activity, but most of whom had been let down by society. They didn't want to be where they were. They're just they were normal people that had made some bad decisions, and they wanted to better themselves. And you know, before, if you've been into a prison,
I have many times.
yeah. So, but before you do,
Yeah.
you have some preconceived ideas about what it's going to be like.
Yeah, you do, yeah.
Don't you? And they're wrong, because you're going in and you're meeting some human beings, and human beings that want to better themselves. And it was a revelation again. And we had this idea of this program, and we were rigid in our thinking. And for the first couple of months, because we're both quite linear with how things should be, and it didn't go the way we wanted it to the first couple of months. And we were coming away, and I was like, why isn't it working? And it's because we realised that you've got a group of 16 people, and they've all, every single time you meet, it's got a different need.
Yeah.
It's got a different vibe to it. It's got different interactions with like different people in each one. And as soon as we realised, right, as long as we've got the structure here of what it is we want to achieve, the delivery of it can be a group chat, it can be a debate, it can be writing, it can be a quiz, it can be anything that's based around this thing. And as soon as we did that, it was incredible. We added a measurements matrix. We won an award, which the prison put us forward for, and they'd never done anything like that previously. And it was just, that was where it all started. And
from the prisoners' perspective, what was their feedback like? And could you see them sort of really grow?
Oh, yes. There's a person who has given permission for us to talk about her.
Okay.
So I'm not undermining any safeguarding issues here. So in our very first one in the prison, we had a person come along called Carrie. Carrie was incredibly shy, incredibly introverted. She was on a rolling, I can't remember, it's an acronym again, so I can't remember it, but she was on a rolling no parole thing where she was never going to get out.
Yeah.
Can't remember what it is. Carrie was also completely covered, trigger warning for self-harm, completely covered in scars, like someone had wrapped waxed string around her arms. Some of them were still open. She had quite high-level psychosis, was on incredibly strong meds, because an entity would visit her called Stargazer that would tell her to cut.
Okay.
She hated poetry. She didn't really like writing, but she wanted to give it a go. And this is where the hairs go up. So now, 6 years later, Carrie has transitioned to Luke. Carrie is off meds.
Wow.
Or rather, Luke is off meds.
Yeah.
Luke did a journalism course, worked in a library, is, I think this year, being released.
This is just outstanding.
It's just, they are all up.
Yeah.
We saw things like that. We saw people manage addictions.
Yeah.
We saw people manage suicidal thoughts just through having space held for them, having a regular place to connect and talk and have someone listen.
Yeah.
And I think that was key, particularly with the prison. People giving them a chance to talk, giving them a voice, and we've kind of gone. We're now working with the parole board, so we've kind of gone full circle because we left the prison because they were crappy payers, and we needed to grow.
Yeah.
Well, we actually turned down a huge contract with Ministry of Justice because it was too. Intellectual property was, but it was round about this time last year we turned down a £180,000 contract.
Wow.
Because it would have been business suicide. But that's how grown up we became.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we recognise that.
And you've got to be quite headstrong, I think, to also decline on those types of offers, because most, especially now, will be like, oh yeah, we'll take it, and we'll just. Yeah. Like you say, give our life to that and put our soul in it. But sometimes it's good to say no and make sure that
it is, and it took a lot of toing and froing, because what we deliver in person and we deliver via Zoom.
Yeah.
And the pandemic led us to kind of doing what we do over Zoom, and the efficacy was as high, if not higher, with some people.
Okay.
It's still 99% of people, because we do the impact assessments. 99% of people report a reduction in depression, anxiety symptoms. 100% of every single person that has been on our program has said it's been beneficial to them. 100%, which is why the NHS are using this. But they were insisting on it being physical in the middle of a pandemic when lockdowns were on, lockdowns were off. It could have lasted 4 years and it would have put us under.
Yeah, and it's pretty much near on impossible.
Yeah, it was.
You'd end up delivering nothing.
Completely, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it was, the prison was incredible. Coming full circle to the parole board and delivering through them is just, it's just, I mean, we're reaching goals that we anticipated in 10 years.
Yeah.
We're only in our 5th year now.
Wow.
Which is just...
Well done you. I love that.
Yeah.
And did you imagine that it would be this good,
No.
quickly?
No.
And that you'd make so many, I suppose, life changes to people, significant.
No. It's
a big thing when you think about it, right? About the lives that you've touched.
Yeah. We've changed lives, we've saved lives.
Yeah.
And both Sammi and I, through our backgrounds and through our mental illnesses, have had a propensity for being somewhat cynical and seeing not even a half full glass but a smashed glass. But we are finally at the stage where we kind of recognise what it is that we've done. We give ourselves regular pats on the back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still like, oh, come on. Come on.
You can do it.
Yes. But do you know what? That self-criticism, that particularly in Sammi's case, hypervigilance, is what's pushed us through to being in year 5 and having the team that we've got and the contracts that we've got coming in. So it's just, but we never, ever, ever thought we'd be where we are now. And I personally, because I was a self-serving, self-gratifying, self-obsessed bastard for so long. Like,
we've all been there, Paul.
Yeah, and it was fun.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was all about us. Yeah, and all about like hedonism and just joy and living for the weekend. So to now kind of have almost managed the things that came on the back of that into something that helps people is just, it's just magnificent.
Yeah. And I think it's proof, especially the more people that I talk to on this couch and on the podcast, that it doesn't matter where you start. It doesn't matter, you know, what industry you go into. Your life can always evolve.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can reinvent yourself.
Completely.
All the time. You just have to have that belief to do
Yes.
that. But to get to that belief, you really need to understand what's going on in here and look after that.
Yes,
first.
and know your truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
I mean, I've changed direction more than a ship in a in a rough sea. But yeah, it's never too late.
Yeah,
never too late.
And I suppose there's lots of people at the moment that are suffering with mental health. I think suicide rates are higher than they've ever been. Actually, that is the pandemic right now. What advice would you give to, especially men that are going through that at the moment in terms of how they can reach out, where they can go, those types of things, and things that they can put in place, whether it's writing or whatever that might be?
Well, first and foremost, if you look at www.poetsin.com, there's a lot of blog pieces on there with advice in there. There's a lot of contact means to get hold of us. There are also some free tools on there.
Yeah.
Some of the things we use in our program to download and use, from the free thought writing exercise to the worry diary, which is really the thing that changed my life. And if you are struggling with anxiety, overthinking, insomnia, whatever, and you can't focus on things, please do the worry diary, because it's so powerful. It has an accumulative effect. You need to do it for a good couple of weeks, but do it. You can join our Facebook group. It's got 1,600 people in it, all like-minded. It's safe. It's monitored 24/7 by volunteers around the world, so you can reach out there and you can access our buddy service, which means we can help you and give you some real intense help. We've also just recently brought someone up. We've got a full-time counsellor as well. So we are going to be where there is a long waiting list. In some places of the country, it's up to 1,000 days waiting list to get.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's scary. So so we're looking to plug that gap and get some
Brilliant.
funding to get more people to plug that gap. Above all else, talk. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to strangers.
Yeah.
You know, it's always, it's difficult at first if you're not used to it, but the more you talk about it, the easier it becomes. Some people might not even recognise that they've got something going on, but communication, I believe communication is at the heart of all things, good and bad. And the bad things can normally be addressed by bridging a gap where there's no knowledge by communicating. And if that's with your friends, your family, then do so. Get to the doctors. Yes, there might be waiting lists, but get on the waiting list for the help. The doctors will hopefully high-five you like mine did when you reach out to them. It's scary to get there, but once you've done it, like anything, it gets
just
easier.
A step. It's a part of that process, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's just there's this one step you need to take that is between you and getting help.
Yeah.
And it's a scary step. It's like walking off a cliff for some people, but there's a huge net there. Oh my God, I'm mixing my metaphors here, but you know, there's a lot of help out there for you. And if you are in crisis, just dial up the NHS.
Yeah.
They're incredible.
You don't hear that often, so that's good.
Yeah.
That the NHS.
Absolutely.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
And at the bare minimum, just get a pen, get a paper, get a notepad, carry it around, and any thoughts that come in your head, just jot them down. No one has to see it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be Shakespeare. It doesn't have to make any sense whatsoever. Just get it out of here and out of here onto the paper and manifest that shit.
Yeah, I love that. Manifest that shit.
Yes.
That's what it's about.
It is.
And talking nicely to yourself. I mean, we talk to ourselves like absolute crap, right?
Oh my God, yes. the names I call myself.
So just talking nicely.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's gone like that.
Yeah, for doing what you do. And can I have a hug?
Yes, you can. Of course you can.
Oh,
thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, there we go.